if anyone out there has shit to say about Joe Pilato in this movie, they can say it to my face in a fucking parking lot.
You're still listening. This is our final transmission.
We're here, Jamie.
We are here. Welcome to Final Transmission,
Welcome, everyone.
the podcast where me, Jamie, and my good friend Sam, we talk about horror movies, one per week. How you doing,
A
Sam?
weekly. Just talking all over you. It's my thing today, apparently. I'm doing great. I'm doing fantastic. I'd struggle to be better. What about you?
I mean, I'm doing okay.
Yeah?
I worked hard today.
The hardest air quotes I think I've ever seen in my life. You look fantastic.
Thanks,
I
man.
know our listeners can't get the benefit, but you have a rich and glowing pallor to your skin. You're wearing a beautiful shirt and an excellent hat.
I'm regularly wearing this hat, but I've not worn this shirt for a long time. I did put it on this morning because it was a bit chilly and immediately dropped porridge on it. So,
Well, it's porridge coloured.
Exactly.
So perfect spill scenario. Here we are, Final Transmission, episode who knows how many. Today,
I do.
we're talking about a very, very special movie. I mean,
I think we're talking about
can't...
an underrated horror movie from a director that nobody's really heard of.
For a minute, I thought you were serious, and I thought maybe this is underrated.
Well,
Who knows?
I think it is underrated. I think that we're talking about Day of the Dead, George Ray Romero's Day of the Dead, and
Yeah.
people do seem to be pretty down on it. I mean, there are a lot of people that love it, obviously,
Yeah.
but there are people out there that say that it's slow, that it's the weakest of the trilogy. Obviously, everything that comes after is everything that comes after, which we might touch on a little bit. But, this is where we are for now. And so I do think it's a bit underrated because, spoiler alert, it's my favorite of the original trilogy. I mean, of all of the Romero zombie films.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the best one, but it is my favorite.
If the conversation about Day of the Dead is a mosh pit, I'm going in fucking throwing elbows. I'm chucking knees at nose level. I'm launching my pelvis forward as hard as I can into people's faces. And I'm screaming, fuck you, at the top of my lungs, because this is the greatest zombie movie of all time.
I completely agree. I think if this movie is a mosh pit, I will tap out about halfway through, put my hands on my knees.
Roll to the bar.
Yeah, I came out of what we call mosh retirement at MPF when Manchester Punk Festival, when Graftioki played a cover of New Noise by Refused, because
I remember it vividly.
I have not moshed that hard in, I want to say, 15 years.
So good.
And yeah,
I remember my buddy Bolsey came out of mosh retirement maybe like 20 years ago to go into the pit for some fucking asinine shite, like funeral for a friend or something. And he'd not realized that all these years of desk work had rendered him utterly and completely inflexible. And he just kind of like marionette can-canned forward a few feet and then came out exhausted and was sick. So that was a long time ago. Nowadays, moshing is largely off the menu, let's be honest.
yeah. I mean, as a larger lad, I'm not a crowd surfer, so I'm not going to come out of crowd surf retirement anytime soon.
That's not on you, buddy. As a bigger lady, you just need bigger people beneath you. You
Yeah.
need stronger people holding you up.
Yeah, there's a video of us playing a house in Southampton, and I believe that you joined Ben on vocals because it was when we were on tour together. And there's a video of basically the crowd that weren't massive, but the crowd picked everybody in the band up as we were playing our last song, Steve's Job, and I can see the faces of the people trying to pick me up, and I mean, we're talking 10, 11 years ago, so I was probably a bit lighter back then, and I can see the strain on those people where they were like, oh, we've committed to this now, we have to do it.
Committed to the bit. But the thing is, they're fucking weeds and they need to hit the gym. is my advice.
Yeah.
What would Rollins say in this scenario? He'd be appalled. Point being, there was probably, let's say there were 8 people there, and there were 5 people in that band at that moment. So it was rough, heavy work all around. Good show.
Good show.
times.
That was
Yeah.
one of our friends was doing karaoke incessantly.
Right.
And I was like, I'm going to go to bed. And you were like, oh, God, are we allowed?
I didn't. I wasn't very good at setting my boundaries back then. If someone was like, "We want to entertain you until 5 a.m. because you're staying at our house," I would just endure and I would put up with it and I would fucking, do whatever lame shit was happening until. And it was normally a miscommunication. Like they wanted to go to bed, I wanted to go to bed. For some reason, we stayed up 6 hours later than we should have. It's always the way.
Yeah.
Now I'm much better at setting my boundaries, Jamie.
Well, if the zombie genre was staying up late with a friend, I would stay up all night and then some for Day of the Dead.
Yeah, me too. I don't know about you. I probably will know about you in a couple of minutes, but I have loved this movie since the very moment I first watched it. I knew I was watching something really special. I knew that my needs were being met from front to back with this movie, and it changed a lot of things for me about what I expect from a high quality horror movie. It raised the bar a bit for me. I don't know if you remember specifically when or how you saw this.
I think I was maybe 15, 16,
Ooh.
and I bought a VHS, and that VHS was this movie. Otherwise, that would be a pointless story.
Otherwise, it would be irrelevant.
Yeah. I bought a VHS. Yeah.
The end.
It was True Lies. No.
I had that on VHS.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Very fuzzy on the dance for me scene, but
I couldn't. I was trying to remember recently what the fighter plane is in True Lies.
is it a Harrier? It goes straight up, doesn't
You
it?
think it is, but it's not a Harrier jump jet.
Oh.
Something else. It must be the Mandela effect. Anyway, fuck that movie. Back to Day of the Dead. I had this in many formats because I loved it so much. I had it on like a special cardboard cutout sleeve release. I had the steelbook. I've got it as part of the original trilogy with all the extra features. If I saw a version of this, there was a period in my life where I felt like I would have to acquire it just because it was kind of formative in my standard setting of horror movies. We'll talk about it later, like why. But the main thing for me in this movie is the theme, I guess the overarching theme / sub themes, the gore, the acting, and the general sense of hopelessness and the agony portrayed in this movie was really moving to me.
Yeah, I think I may have seen Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead in the same evening.
Oh wow! For the first time, you mean?
Yeah.
Yikes!
No, just generally.
Do you know what? This is gonna fucking blow your tits off. I saw Night of the Living Dead after I saw Day of the Dead.
That's fine. They're only...
It's not. That's unforgivable.
They're only ostensibly linked, right?
But who hasn't seen Night of the Living Dead?
Well, yeah, I saw it when I was 9. But whatever. Like, that's okay.
9.
Yeah, I watched it. I think we talked previously about it being like a really formative horror experience for me. But we also talked quite recently about lying in bed with the telly on with the volume really low, with your finger hovering over the remote off button so you can turn it off if someone walks in. And that was my experience of watching Night of the Living Dead, and then being really fucked up when they kill Ben, spoiler alert, at the end. Spoiler alert from a movie from 1968.
Imagine someone's 40 listening to our podcast out of sympathy, and they don't even like horror movies, and they're like, I think I'm going to check out this Night of the Living Dead. Oh, fuck's sake. Ben dies? Jesus. Yeah, I think... I don't know how this happened. Like maybe I'd seen bits. I must have seen clips, and I remember seeing this when I was like 17 or something, thereabouts, 16, 17, and then thinking, wow, I've got some fucking homework to do, and going back, and I'd already seen Night of the Living Dead. I'd already seen Dawn of the Dead, sorry, but I hadn't seen Night of the Living Dead, and I went back and watched those, and then dove a bit deeper into zombie movies, and came up sucking my thumb, as they say, because I'd already seen the best of the best.
A similar thing happened to me in which I watched, like I say, I watched this and Dawn of the Dead in the same evening, in the correct order, obviously. And I'd seen a couple of other zombie movies,
Yeah.
I used to buy a lot of videos from a shop in Wrexham called Phase 9 Records.
Mm.
And they had like a good wall of like movies, and I would just pick things that had cool titles. So I think I probably had seen like Zombie Flesh Eaters and stuff like that before I saw this.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, I'd watched this and I was tricked into thinking that all zombie films were good movies.
Yeah.
So I was
yeah,
like,
it would do that.
yeah, I was like a almost a completist for a long time. I would just watch every zombie movie, including Day of the Dead 2, Contagion, which
Yikes.
if you need any help or any guidance, my advice would be don't watch that fucking movie, guys. Don't do
We're
it.
we're not here to tell you what not to do and what not to enjoy, but I'm going to agree with Jamie here. It's a fucking waste of your time.
Yeah. I watched a lot of zombie movies before I was like, wait, zombie movies are shit.
With a few finite exceptions.
With a few finite exceptions, which are, you know, Della Morte, Della More, as we've discussed previously.
Easy tiger.
The Beyond, of course.
Mm.
Bunch of good Italian ones. A couple of good non-Romero American ones.
Yep.
And Shaun of the Dead. And that's about it, I think.
Yeah, it's,
Oh,
it's not exactly, you know, are you going to give 28 Days Later a fucking pass?
No.
Or?
No, I'm going to say the Northern Irish Boy Eats Girl starring Samantha Mumba is a banger.
That makes it on the fucking list.
Yeah, it does.
Christ. I mean, yeah, okay. So.
Do you know what? In fact, do you know what doesn't make it on the list, Sam?
What?
Fucking Cell, which I watched on your recommendation.
We're easy. I
You
didn't necessarily recommend it. I said it's Cusack in a Stephen King movie with Samuel L. Jackson. Like, you have to watch it. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it has to be watched.
Well, I've not watched 1408, and they're both in that.
Yeah, true. That's fine.
But-
Cell is borderline unforgivable. There's so much in that movie that needs to be confined to the bin of eternity.
Yeah, I think I texted you maybe 15 minutes in and was like, oh.
You texted me 15 times in 15 minutes, the first 15.
Yeah, just like, oh, mobile phone zombies. Subtle.
That, I mean, it's no less subtle than Shaun of the Dead.
Sure, the dead, they're just zombies. That's fine. It's the subtlety isn't that zombies exist. The subtlety is, or the lack of subtlety is, oh, mobile phones will turn you into a zombie.
Yeah, but Shaun of the Dead's like, look, everyone's already a zombie. What's the diff?
Yeah, well, there are obviously.
I like Shaun of the Dead, don't get me wrong.
I like Shaun of the Dead too. Not the sequel.
Whoa, there's a sequel? Oh! Anyway, fuck all that noise. Let's get down and dirty with Day of the Dead.
Okay. Do you want to give us? Well, okay. We've said some things. We've not said some things that we would normally say about a normal movie. Obviously, Day of the Dead isn't a normal movie because everyone in the fucking world has seen it.
Yeah.
But it's directed by George A. Romero. It stars Laurie Cardille as Dr. Sarah Bowman. We've got Joseph Pilato as Captain Rhodes.
Pause for applause. Come
Yeah.
on, baby.
The greatest dickhead in cinema history, I think.
Possibly, it's definitely one of the top 3 roles that we've covered on Final Transmission.
Yeah. You've got Jarlath Conroy as the mechanic or whatever he is, radio guy.
Jarlath. Yeah, he's got absolutely no picture on IMDb. Just
Yeah.
always an indicator of where someone's career went after a movie.
Yeah.
Nothing.
You've got Richard Liberty as Dr. Frankenstein Logan.
Yep. You've got Gary Howard Clark as your boy.
Yeah.
Good old fucking Riggs or whatever his name is. I'm not going to join in this part because I don't know what anyone's name is. Steele.
Steel.
Steele.
And everyone else is like kind of nobody. Terry Alexander is in there.
Oh, Terry Alexander. Yeah,
But
come on.
everyone else is kind of nobody.
Everyone else is nobody, but everyone's somebody. There's something,
Yeah.
even the nobodies in this movie have something fucking ripping happen to them.
Yeah, low-key, my favorite character is Rickles, but we'll get into like
Yeah.
the who's and the whys and the whats after the break, which I guess we'll take now. Oh, we've not done a synopsis, Sam. Do you want to give a synopsis for Day of the Dead in case anyone out
I'll
there
try.
has just landed?
I'll try. Day of the Dead takes place when the world has been overrun by a largely unexplained zombie plague. And it falls to a group of military personnel and scientists living in an underground bunker somewhere in Florida to try and decipher how they're going to get out of this zombie apocalypse. They may or may not be the last people on Earth. Mayhem ensues.
Mayhem does ensue. I mean, that's what happens.
Yeah, what I miss?
I don't think you missed anything, really.
Is Jarlath a made-up name?
I think it's an Irish name. Which
All this and more after the break.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it's an Irish name. Let's take a break and we'll come back and right, because this film is fairly universally loved, I'm going to be going pretty hard on it, at least at the start.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go hard. But I also think it's worth noting early how divisive it is. It really bummed out fans. It did not do well at the box office, and people are fucking idiots.
Yeah.
Let's take a break.
Cool.
Whoa, holy shit. I guess that's why they call it Phantom Power.
Red Scare Industries, what's the hype? What's going on? What are the kids saying?
The kids are saying, no cap, it's a piff label full of Riz, and I think that's it. I think that's all I've got.
That was pretty good kid speak. I like your work.
But it's a good label, Sam. Red Scare Records, Red Scare Industries, cracking label. Loads of great records. Red
Scare Industries, serving the piff to your mama with Riz. Check them out, redscare.net. Ooh, I'm back. How back do you feel?
Like a vertebrae, Sam.
A bit of goody. Listen, people hated this film. They thought it was a downer. They thought it was a bummer. They expected a gas, and they got ass. They weren't ready for the bleakness. They weren't ready for the punishment. They were not ready. Full stop. Why are these people wrong?
I'm gonna go the other way to start with.
Why are they right?
Well, I think you could argue that the first 2/3 of this movie, the first two acts, are quite slow.
Depends. Yeah, sure. Guess it depends on your definition of slow.
Yeah, I think
as a 1985 horror viewer.
Yeah, I think the excitement level isn't necessarily there. I think sometimes this film looks like ass.
Ooh, agreed.
I think the production design, sometimes it's amazing. Like sometimes it looks like we're really in these caves, because they were, these tunnels rather, because we were. But like sometimes it looks like they're in front of a big papier-mâché wall.
Which they are.
Which, again, they are. The cinematography it's just sort of unshowy. So it's like, I don't know, what's the word that you would use? I guess like workmanlike or whatever. It's just like...
humble.
Yeah, it's just sort of there. There's nothing to it. There's only one sort of interesting visual camera type thing, which is the hands when they're getting roads.
Yeah, I think at a stretch there's maybe several of those, but that's the one. That's the big one.
I don't understand the continuity of the Apocalypse trilogy.
Okay.
I want to know how Stephen King was able to write Salem's Lot after the world ended.
Did you say Stephen King?
I don't think
I did.
It's a good
question, but undermined by your pronunciation of Stephen as Stephen. Are you steaming? Have you been hitting the beers?
No.
How did Stephen King write Salem's Lot after the apocalypse? I don't know. Why? When did Salem's Lot come out?
75.
Well, the trick here is that it's actually Pet Cemetery that Bob reads.
It's definitely not. It's Salem's Lot.
Ooh, let's do a bet. Should we do a bet? If I'm right,
sure.
You do a shot. If you're right, I do a shot.
Okay.
All right, let's look it up.
I'm just going to share my screen with you here, Sam.
Why? Have you fucking won?
Yeah, of course.
God damn it, Janet.
Sir. Le.
Yeah, all right, you win.
Oh.
Why would they pick Salem's Lot? Okay, here comes the shot. I mean, my thinking there is, I don't understand your question in that case.
So the world ended in 1968, right?
Do you mean was Night of the Living Dead in 1968?
Yeah.
I don't see that as the end of the world. I think a long time has passed since then and this movie. And I think this movie is in 1980, whatever it was shot, 1984.
Like, sure, but Dawn of the Dead was 77, right? And the world has been completely overtaken by zombies.
Yeah, I mean, there's still people living above ground, running around trying to survive.
Yeah, they're running around trying to survive. They're not publishing bestsellers.
I see. Well, then maybe this gives us our timeline. Maybe it was a couple of years later. Maybe Stephen King was still able to publish after the events of Night of the Living Dead. What's your problem, Jamie?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. Mr. Continuity wants to know how a book was published during a zombie apocalypse.
I'm like I say, I'm being picky at the top because obviously we're going to spend another hour gushing about this fucking movie.
I mean, just use Carrie to stop people asking that question. Do you know what I mean? Just like Stephen King's friends with Romero, we get it. They got to get a King property in there. They got to get a book in there somehow. Don't use that one. Like, it's kind of an oversight.
Yeah, I wonder if there's some sort of thematic reason for choosing Salem's Lot, but like you could basically, I mean, maybe the Dead Zone would be a bit on the nose title wise.
Oh, honestly, I would pick Pet Sematary. Call me crazy, but
when did Pet Sematary come out? Was it 80? It was after this, wasn't it?
Pet Sematary came out in 1983, so 2 years before this movie came out.
Maybe it was too new. Maybe George Romero's like me and is like, I'm not reading any new Stephen King, except new Stephen King to him is Pet Sematary, and new Stephen King to me is they shot JFK in the cornfield or whatever.
I see it as more likely that Romero was devouring any new Stephen King at this point because he was at the height of his powers. Everything he was doing was unfuckwithable, and Pet Sematary is his best novel. So
okay, so my next gripe.
Go on, gripe away.
I think the performances are bonkers. I love them, but it sort of feels like everybody's in a different movie and they're all bad in that movie.
I'd go as far as to say everyone's in a different daytime TV show and they're all amazing in that daytime TV show. But that does not maketh a great horror movie.
No. It somehow works and becomes like sort of campy and joyful as a result.
It really
but
does,
like,
yeah.
And it's one of the few sort of fun things about the movie.
Yeah.
Is the way that the performances are pitched and how they're all pitched in completely different places.
Yeah. It's crazy because it was one of the things that really bummed me out about it on first watch. Because I was like, I thought I was getting a really serious horror movie because of the atmosphere and the tone and the visuals and the themes. And then, the fucking performances are all over this bitch. Do you know what blows me away is I saw an interview with Terry Alexander where he was like, I was the only guy that George Romero knew who could do a West Indies accent perfectly. I mean, like pitch perfect, baby. And I'm like, your West Indies accent is worse than my mum's. Like, you are so shit at that accent, buddy. But talk about owning it. Like, for it to be 30 years later and be like, my West Indies accent was the best in the business when it's clearly shite.
I think it was the best that George Romero, a guy from fucking Pittsburgh, knew. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, potentially. But still, like, holy crap. I mean, his West Indies accent is better now. Look at it that way. He does a little bit of it in this interview that I watched. And I was like, that's wait, you've had 30 years to work on this. That's a lot better.
Yeah.
Nearly 40 years to work on it to this point,
Yeah, I mean, I've not heard it outside of this movie.
Yeah. It got better.
But I do believe you.
I was so suspicious of the performances in this movie. I was so like, oh boy, where are these people even from? That I didn't believe Jarlath Conroy was Irish when he was fucking born in Galway. Like,
yeah.
There's a lot going on in the performances of this movie we need to break down because they are varied.
Yeah, I think Jarlath Conroy I guess he spent quite a lot of time in America.
Yeah, you would imagine he spent a lot of time in LA,
Yeah, he's got like a bit of a transatlantic Irish accent, so it almost sounds not real.
Yeah, Yeah, for sure.
or like it's being. I guess it's just how he talks, but it sounds like it's being put on by an American.
Again, we're picking nits so hardcore here, but it has that the kind of inconsistency that you get from an actor who, when they're really acting or when they're doing something really intense, slips into their real accent. Because
Yeah,
when he's really going for it, he's Irish as hell, and when he's not, he just kind of sounds a little bit bogus. I mean, that can be said of any bad accent actor, but with
yeah.
him, I think it's just a level of intensity. He's, I actually think he delivers a great performance, but I the reason I was suspicious is because everyone else's accent work is fucking donkey dicks, and his was
Yeah.
turns out pretty natural.
Okay, my last gripe, Sam.
Gripe, come on.
This is a big one.
Uh
Does Bub suck?
oh. I like that you phrase your gripe in the form of a question. I'm going to go with a hard and unequivocal no. As someone who's lain awake at night asking myself the same question and following it with, am I a dick for leaning really hard into really liking Bub? No, I think Bub is absolutely fucking fantastic.
Like, I loved Bub, and now I think maybe Bub's just a bit on the nose.
I mean, how are you going to define on the nose?
At one point, he's very clearly considering biting Logan's arm, right?
Yeah. Ad-libbed, interestingly. Very fun.
Yeah. And then at another point, he's very bitchily saluting dead Rhodes.
Yeah. Sassy.
So, like, I'm not sure how those two things gel in terms of a coherent character.
I mean, his sentience is fucking the wildest swing for the fences imaginable in the zombie context. You know, the fact that he's like, I like Beethoven, and I used to be in the military, and I know how to shave, and all the other zombies are just trying to eat you.
Yeah.
It's an enormous leap, but it's such a brave, exciting, and creative one that I think it fucking sings.
Yeah, I think my main issue with Bub is other movies that have done it less well.
He can pretty much talk. You remember that scene where he fucking says words? He's like, "Hi, Aunt Alicia," when he's on the
Yeah.
phone. Fucking guy can talk. What is happening? I love it. It totally stopped me in my tracks the first time. I was like, this is brand new. It's so fresh. It's such a crazy fucking idea. Let's see where it goes. And then we get this beautifully nuanced performance that makes you empathize with a zombie. You know, you don't go there much in zombie movies, and it makes you want him to win. It makes you root for a zombie, which is absolutely absurd.
I
I'm showing all the body language of someone who doesn't buy what I just said, just for our listeners' sake.
I don't agree with you. I think I never sympathized with him, not in the way that like you would maybe sympathize with, say, Ed at the end of Shaun of the Dead. Spoiler alert. I love spoiling things and then saying spoiler alert
Yeah,
afterwards.
you're really good at that. Yeah, you really give people a chance.
I've never really been a zombies are worthy of sympathy kind of guy, apart from maybe at the end of the remake of Night of the Living Dead.
Right, yeah, for sure. I mean, me neither, but that's what this movie does so well, is you can either be Rhodes and want to blow them all to shit, or you can be on a more like progressive side of things with Frankenstein. You could be exploring other avenues.
I wouldn't necessarily that Frankenstein is more progressive. He's just a different kind of oppressive.
He's what?
Just a different kind of oppression, right?
I mean, this is one of the central tensions. This is one of the funnest, most exciting things to take apart in this movie, is where you land on the debate about what the scientists are doing versus what the military wants.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're both wrong.
Yeah, but in what ways, and what part of their rationale is almost like salvageable? What part is the most humane? That for me is the most interesting part of this movie, and they both have aspects of their like drive and their motivations that are barbaric, but the ultimate goal is always human survival. So one of the most interesting themes, I think, is like, to what extent are you willing to push the boundaries of morality in the name of survival, and at what point do you just cop out and go to a beach and fuck? Like that is such a great thing to explore with the vehicle of zombies. And I land pretty squarely with the scientists in this one. Like, if it means breaking a few rules and feeding a few dead soldiers to the zombies to ultimately learn something about humanity. They're learning about humanity from zombies. That's deep as balls, and I love it. So I think Bub works because he's either going to appall you or you're going to sympathize. And that is the core of this movie. You're either going to love it or hate it. It's going to flop or it's going to be a classic. Um, and the fact that it can polarize people that love the movie. Me and you both love this movie, right? We're talking about it for fucking. We were
Yeah.
talking about it for like 6 hours. Because it can polarize two people who love the movie for the same reasons. That's a fucking movie with substance, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoy like the Cold War that's happening at the center of this movie between like brains and muscles.
Yeah, for sure.
They're both right and they're both wrong.
Mm.
And like I mean it's even in the text, it's like people want to survive, they just don't know which is the right way. Or that is a huge paraphrase, but it's
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that Jarlath Conroy's character says, right? Everyone thinks that their way is right.
Yeah, there's a lot in this film about what's your definition of survival. Is it just living, or is it going to a beach? To what extent are you surviving?
Another sort of semi gripe would be like, I don't really understand what's keeping anybody there. Like, I guess the scientists are there for science, and they love science and they want to understand either. It's very clear that like Frankenstein Logan like loves what he's doing and is just really stoked to be doing it, and like Fisher and the main woman, like they are trying to find either a cure or a way to reverse what's happening, or at least to stop people coming back from the dead.
Mm.
So,
Seems to be a real problem around here.
yeah, because as we know, it's not just people that are bitten that become zombies. It's everyone that dies gets back up.
Yeah, there's no more room in hell.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I think I
like-
understand why they're there, and that's
well, what I mean is like, when you're a soldier, at what point do you stop being a soldier and start just being someone who's taking orders from a guy? Like, you're not getting paid anymore because everybody else is dead.
yeah. But again, that's for me something that just plays in massively to the central theme here is they're just following orders. So they've been posted there. Their commanding officer has died. Rhodes has stepped up and become the commanding officer, and they're just continuing the chain of command until there's nothing left because they're an unthinking military unit. They just do as ordered. And there is a conversation in the movie about maybe there are still people in Washington. If there are still people in Washington, they're aware of both the science and the military and the whole facility, and maybe they'll send someone to find them. And that's enough for military personnel to just fucking stand by their post until
Yeah.
everything has collapsed. And it's enough, like you said, that the scientist's drive is to succeed. They have no resources. They have nothing in terms of like decent equipment, good facilities. They don't even, it doesn't even look like they have anything like to sterilize stuff at this point. Like the whole place is falling apart, and they're still going. Dr. Frankenstein Logan is insane, and it looks like Bowman isn't succeeding in her research. So even within their camp, the movie's all about division and conflict and lack of cooperation. Even in their camp, you've got a guy doing pure research with surgery and experimental surgery, to say the least, and then you've got someone doing pure like academic research and more like microbiological stuff, and even they are in friction.
Yeah, we don't really get to see a lot of Bowman's research, do we? Or Fisher.
Well, Bowman's stuff it's just going to be papers, right? It's going to be boring as tits. It's going to be like a microscope and a fucking a pen and paper. Whereas what Frankenstein's up to is a whole different deal.
I think that the only actually good performance in this movie
Go on.
is Frankenstein.
Yikes! That's a hot. I mean, what the kids would call a hot take.
I think he's giving, and it's bold. I think Richard Liberty is giving the almost identical performance to Jeffrey Combs in Reanimator.
I thought the same thing. Yeah.
Like, even
To the
their
point where
voices
they don't
sound
look
the same.
alike, but they almost look similar. Yeah, they do it so hard.
Like, obviously, Herbert West is obviously much younger. He's a little bit more angry.
Yeah.
But like, I think you put Herbert West in this situation where he's allowed to just do what he wants with impunity until he isn't, then this is exactly how he would act. And the voices are so similar. The inflection is like, it's identical.
It's pretty close.
Very,
yeah.
very interesting. Given that, like, obviously they both had careers before this, both Jeffrey Combs and Richard Liberty, but they weren't big before it, so it wasn't even like one of them could have seen the other one in something else.
Yeah.
Like, I think the only film from before this where I've seen Richard Liberty is Porky's 2, which is surprisingly great.
Surprisingly great.
Yeah.
Oh, Porky's 2 sucks. Come on.
Where did you last watch Porky's 2?
1990 something.
So Porky's 1 sucks.
Big time. Yeah.
Porky's 2, it's set on Halloween. They get their own back on a bunch of KKK for insulting their like Native American friend.
Right. I think I remember
Like
some of this dimly.
It's as woke as you're gonna get from a Porky's.
Wow, that's a high bar. You know what? If your name's Richard Liberty and you're in Porky's 2 and you do not go by Dick Liberty, you fucked up.
Yeah, Dick Liberty is very on the nose name for an American porn star, isn't it?
It's perfect. And I think if your name's Richard and you're not going by Dick, you fucked up. Like, you've got such a golden opportunity there. I don't know. Anyway, less of that, more of this. I think I would respectfully, roundly disagree that that's the only good performance in this movie. I think there's some real stonkers and some clunkers.
I think it's the only genuinely good. Like, you could put that performance in any number of other movies and it would work.
Yeah, but it's really easy to criticize it as very hammy, and to be fair, like a little bit cut to fit. Like, he is Frankenstein. They're calling him Frankenstein. He is Dr. Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Like, I love his performance. I find it really endearing. I really love the character. I find him really magnetic, and everything he does just feels kind of chewy, and you just want to get in there and get with the intensity. But I think Joe Pilato's performance is phenomenal. I really love Laurie Cardew in this. Totally honest, I don't love Terry Alexander and Jarlath Conroy, but I love them together. I don't love them separately, but I love what they do for the movie together. I think...
Yeah, they've got a good dynamic. Just going back to what you said about Frankenstein, like, I don't think that performance is especially Colin Clive or Richard Branagh. Richard Branagh was in 1994, so they probably hadn't seen that one at that point.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think it was especially like, I don't know, Jeffrey Combs and Dick Liberty were both doing an impression of Colin Clive or like trying to match that. Like, I don't really see it.
I don't see it like a direct comparison. I see it enough in that the soldiers see it. Like, there's a skittish intensity to it, and a deep parallel in what the characters do and what their motivation is. That it's a bit too obvious.
Yeah.
The casting is great. The performance is really rock solid. But for me, like, if your criticism is that this is the best performance, for me, it's one of the weaker ones. So I elevate the performances way above this. Like, if anyone out there has shit to say about Joe Pilato in this movie, they can say it to my face in a fucking parking lot, because it's seriously good shit.
Like it is, but only in this movie. Like, there's a reason why he didn't act very much.
Yeah.
And it's because outside of the context of a very specific safe space where you can act as insanely as you need to, he doesn't work.
I don't know if I buy that, because so many actors have huge careers off of that one ability. They have that one switch. It's 0 to 60, a few bits in between, but for the most part, I'm this guy. I'm this maniac. I think maybe he had other shit going on that meant he didn't work as much, because he could be this guy in 50 movies that are horror classics. He could, I'm not going to, this is a fucking dumb comparison. I already regret saying this, but him and Bruce Campbell, like, Bruce Campbell doesn't have this like patina and subtlety and nuance to his performances. He's fucking Bruce Campbell. Do you know what I mean? And this guy delivers as strong a performance as Bruce Campbell in any movie, and could have been in 50 more. He just didn't, for whatever. Hollywood didn't choose him. He didn't maybe he was a psycho in real life. Maybe he was really hard to work with. He seems super laid back, which makes it even more impressive that he's this, like, lunatic, militaristic dictator guy. But I don't buy that his performance isn't good enough to land him other roles. Like, he fucking kicked it in the dick.
I think Bruce Campbell, his physicality is just different.
Yeah.
I think, like, he could do all of that insane slapstick stuff, and he's sort of
true.
is a little bit, or was a little bit more sort of conventionally handsome
Mm.
around the mid 80s and 90s,
How much
early
does
90s.
how much does he look like Jason Bateman in this?
There is some Bateman in there, isn't there? I wonder if he fucked his mum.
Oh God, I hope that. I really hope that happened. I hope. No, I'm not going to say that. I think, yeah, to say that like his performance in this ruined his career is
I mean, that's
insane.
that's not what I'm saying. I'm just sort of saying like he had some very small roles in like quite a lot of things after this, but like fairly small roles.
He's in Dawn of the
Like
Dead.
that was before this.
But yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not saying it's a performance for the ages. I'm saying it is a rock solid portrayal of this character. It's exactly what this movie needed. It needed the spark, the life, the aggression, the psychosis. It needed all of that, and he brought it. And he's great because they talk a lot about him being a smaller man. You know, like maybe he's short or whatever. I don't fucking care. But like the Napoleon syndrome side of this character is pretty huge. He's not stacked. Like he's not a gigantic buff, Stallone or Schwarzenegger guy, and he's power tripping around the place with so much charisma and magnetism. I don't know. He just dominates every scene he's in for me, and I think should have been more revered for this.
I wonder if I might edit this out because I don't know if it's relevant or
He's a
interesting.
pedo.
No, but I wonder if he had like a drink or a drugs problem.
Oh,
Because
the interviews I've seen with him, I guarantee he does or
yeah,
did whatever.
I remember him at like at the start of Wishmaster looking like absolute fried shit.
Hammered dog shit. Yeah, but again, like my question is, who the fuck in Hollywood at this point is letting a drink or drug problem keep them out of the movie business? What the fuck are
Well,
we talking about?
if it turns you into an absolute prick, which it does to some people.
Some, yeah,
Like some people can be an alcoholic, be fine. Some of them are such good actors that it doesn't really matter that they're an alcoholic. Like fucking what's his dick?
Mickey Rourke.
Oliver Reed or Mickey Rourke. Yeah.
No, dude, everything you've read about Oliver Reed tells you he was fucking impossible to work with.
Well, that's what I'm
like
saying.
50 takes for one syllable and shit. Like, get the fuck out of here.
But he was a good enough actor. He was such a good actor that like you couldn't not cast him because he's so good. You just have to factor in the fucked up shit alongside it.
But I think that's the problem with Hollywood, stardom, fame, success, all that shit, is that there's 50 guys behind Oliver Reed just as good who never got a shot because fucking insert bullshit Hollywood reason here. Like, I don't fully understand why this guy didn't have a huge career. And that always makes me think it's probably a personality thing. Probably clashed with too many people, didn't suck the right dicks. And I respect that way more than some, success is cringe, to quote the band Cheek Face. I think this guy is punk as fuck, and I really like him. And without him in this movie, you've got something much damper, much grayer,
Yeah.
much more one note.
I agree. I mean, like, I love his performance, but I just don't think he's a very good actor.
Yeah, I don't have enough of a sample size. I've seen him in fuck all. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe 3 or 4 performances.
Yeah.
Sherman Howard, though, talk to me. You don't like Bub. You think Bub sucks.
His performance
for
is
me,
good.
Yeah, but good or fucking great? How
Like-
far are you going to go with this?
I think he does really well. I think I'm just jaded on Bub.
You've had a lot of Bub in your life, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been watching this movie since you were 6.5 years old, like with good reason.
Like sure, like I say, I think it's the other films that do either something similar or something that rips this off that has really sort of knocked me off about Bub. It's just become another one of those sort of tropey things, and and like I said, it doesn't hit me in the feelings like it does for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll play the starry-eyed first timer. Bub's costume is superb. He's a punk icon. He's a gruff punk. He's
Core.
Yeah, he makes no wrong moves in this movie. Sherman Howard or Howard Sherman, depending on how you credit him, just doesn't put a fucking single toe wrong in this portrayal. A really difficult performance. Okay, so you're the guy in the third part, the closing part of a trilogy of zombie movies, who makes us empathize with the enemy, the thing that we're most scared of, the creature that has no humanity, the thing that we're running out of the theaters vomiting in our hands over, and you're the guy who has to make us think twice. You know, it's loaded with pathos. It's incredible physically what he does with his face. Absolutely astonishing. The makeup rips. The stuff that he ad libs is phenomenal. The guy deserves a fucking Oscar. It absolutely knocks dick in dirt. A pitch perfect performance for me. And I still honestly do get the feels when he sees Frankenstein dead. His reaction is really emotive. When he salutes, I just think that's such a fucking choker of a moment. There's something firing in his brain that makes him not disposable human garbage. Like, he may be alive on some level. And that introduces the whole, the fascinating debate as to when are you dead? The movie explores the idea of the undead through this vehicle of a character that displays human behavior, whether just some random firing synapses animating his dead flesh. That's diving into the idea of the existence of a soul. And I don't think anyone in a million years could have done it better than this guy. He fucking absolutely knocks this shit up my ass. Well played.
I disagree. I think that Daniel Day-Lewis would have done a better job.
Oh, Jesus Christ, the DDL. No thanks. Give me Sherman Howard in the movie Day of the Dead over anything Daniel Day-Lewis has ever done. King of the Zombies, am I right? Could have his own movie.
That would be boring.
No way. You kidding me? Fucking Bub goes out there and starts an army of zombies to fight the remaining military in the Florida Keys. You've watched worse.
I've watched Land of the Dead, which is basically that movie, and it fucking sucks.
Real bad. Real bad. Oh, Sins of the Father shit here. Like, where did Romero go? My life. Anyway, let's stay firmly rooted in his best movie.
Well, I do want to sort of get off and talk about that, but maybe we'll do that after the break in the sort of sum up section.
Yeah, sure.
There are a million things that you can say are wrong with this movie, or that I can say are wrong with this movie, but it doesn't really matter because this film is somehow better than the sum of its parts. Everything comes together. These performances that are batshit, the production design, which is like kind of ugly in places and doesn't really sell the location sometimes. It's not a particularly interesting cinematographer, which is what's his name? I can't remember his name. Did I write it down? No. If I did, I can't read it now because my notes are just 2 pages of blocked text. Like there's no
2 pages of gripes and Daniel Day-Lewis jerk-off fantasies.
I've just underlined every time I've written rips. I think that's all I've done in my notes. Just trying
to steal my line.
Yeah, but I think so. It's not particularly interesting to look at. It's a little bit too bright.
Oh, wow. How do we both love this movie and disagree about everything? I think it looks great and it's dark as fuck. You can't see shit. There's one shot that's too bright and it's the opening shot, Tongue Zombie. They famously made this amazing jawless, tongue-lolling puppet zombie that moves in that amazing puppeteered way. And then they put the sun right behind it, completely blacks it out in the foreground. And apparently they were running around with reflectors and mirrors and shit trying to get the light right, and they just ran out of time. They couldn't do it properly. So you lose a lot of the graphic gore in that particular zombie's face. But that's the only bit that's too bright. Everything else is dark as fuck.
I think everything has a really harsh, overhead light type approach, and that's because I guess they're trying to sell the location, right? But the location
the sterility of the lighting,
yeah. But I think it just sort of gives everything a white pallor,
like a washed out underground institutional look.
It gets a pass here because the makeup work by fucking Tom Savini is pretty fucking good, isn't it?
You are Tom Savini's biggest fan this month, by the way. And I don't think it just gets a pass. I think all of those are deliberate choices to make it unpleasant. You're supposed to hate it down there. It sucks. It's supposed to be nauseatingly claustrophobic, sterile, and frighteningly close.
Yeah,
and all of that. And no
bright.
one's supposed to look good. Everyone's supposed to be washed out. That's what that lighting achieves, I think. And that's pretty fucking clever. You got bare concrete walls bouncing back fluorescent lights underground. fuck off. I don't want to be here. This is awful. Get me out. Immediate tension. Love it. Great choice.
Yeah, like maybe that's what they were going for, but I don't like it.
Imagine if it was nice down there. You'd be fucked. Like if it was all like, shimmering pools of water reflecting light up on the ceiling and everyone's turning around at a Dutch angle and looking off into these long corridors. Like it would feel a little bit, I don't know, something psychologically maybe deeper, like more interesting, but the flatness and the coldness and the blueness and the fucking like inescapable, like you turn a light on and that's the light you've got. There's no like, well, let's just light a lamp and soften things in here a little bit. It's pure survival, pure
Yeah.
concrete, pure grey, pure death.
Well, like, I get it, but I don't like it. Like I think
Yeah.
you can light things as if they're being lit by non-diegetic light source.
Like a classic interrogation scene in an interrogation room. Sometimes
Yeah.
they look great and it's supposed to look like it's fucking uncomfortable. They're shining a bright light in the guy's eye, but it looks really artistically shot and it's,
Yeah.
the lighting is pleasing for the viewer and unpleasant for the subject or the actor, maybe.
Yeah, I just sort of think that Romero isn't a particularly interesting director visually. I think he does a lot of really good stuff, and I think he's a good writer, and I think he brings things together really well, and he can translate interesting ideas into populist media, in a way that most people can't. Obviously, at some point this month, we're going to talk about The People Under the Stairs,
Yeah.
which is a different director, Wes Craven, trying to do the sort of thing that George Romero does. And frankly, nobody can do it like George Romero. Nobody can weave a deep political message into, and this is, I think, the most political of the trilogy, at least. But nobody can weave like this political and worldwide, international, humanist message into basically a zombie action movie like he can.
Yeah. I think his vehicle is unique to him. He chose his medium, he chose zombies, and he was passionate enough about the themes and the social causes that he was passionate about to imbue it with that in such a way that is, a true artistic vision realized. And other people can't do that. They try and slap shit together and justify poor movie making with, dog shit ideas. Romero is obviously like famous for doing this in a way that makes it really accessible and makes teenagers go, "Oh shit, I get it," and that's a form of genius. But I think we're selling him short if we say that he's not an interesting visual director, because he's responsible pretty much not single-handedly at all, but like him and his unit, his core crew, his people are responsible for some of the most iconic shots in horror movie history. Like each of these three movies, I bet they spring to mind when I say it. They all have at least one, sometimes multiple iconic horror images that stick with you forever.
Like sure, but like if you think about like those images that we pull out, right? Like the little girl in Night of the Living Dead. That's because that's a spooky thing. It doesn't look particularly good.
No, I disagree. I think Johnny in the cemetery, the famous like up from the bottom shot of Johnny in the cemetery will always be like a core horror shot for me. And in Dawn of the Dead, fucking old Jiminy, what's his name, looking up in the bed, like looking down at the camera with his fucking, that is like, baby.
I don't think that's a very interesting shot.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's good makeup.
I think it's shit makeup and a really interesting shot.
Well, it's not good makeup.
Fucking
but I think
face paint, dude.
yeah, I think it's interesting looking makeup.
Yeah.
The shot is.
Boy, shoot that from another angle and tell me it looks anywhere near as scary. Like
sure, but like
whoever thinks to do that is the clever guy. Like whoever's like, let's fucking shoot it from his big toenail.
I'm not saying it's not clever. I'm just saying it's not particularly attractive.
Yeah, I don't think it's meant to be. I think this is all meant to be horribly ugly.
Well,
I think it's interesting. You said like an interesting, like visually interesting. I think that's like fucking crazy interesting way to shoot that scene.
yeah, fair enough.
And in this movie, you've got a laundry list of great shots and visuals and ideas. The hands flying through the wall happens within the first like fucking 40 seconds.
People hate that. How do you feel about it?
Oh, it scared the fucking piss out of me. The first time I saw it, when you're not expecting it. Like, again, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of someone watching this for the first time. She's just looking at a calendar, and then wham, the scariest fucking shit you could ever imagine happens. It's perfectly executed. It's a
Yeah.
great shot. It's a totally fucking original and beautiful moment.
It's a visually attractive thing that's happening on screen, but the way that it's shot isn't particularly interesting. Is what I'm trying to say. Like it's a static camera. She's at a 3/4 angle. Like it's just a bit boring. It's a bit point and shoot. It's a bit Kevin Smith, and that's maybe I want everybody to be Sam Raimi, and like not everybody can be Sam Raimi.
Yeah, but even Sam Raimi isn't Sam Raimi all the time. He's not doing the trademark Raimi shot on everything that he does. You know,
No,
I
but
can't put the camera anywhere else in my mind for that shot and have it work. Like maybe you do a couple of quick cuts of different angles, but it doesn't need that. I think Romero is a master of parody. Like he knows like how to balance that shit. He knows when to be sparse, when to be over the top, when to drench something in blood, and when to lean back a little bit.
I think that if the camera was in the perfect place, she wouldn't have to turn so awkwardly.
I see that as his love of stage acting. Like maybe I'm being more generous than I need to be, but you know that's a very stage moment. It's pure fucking Desdemona shit. They're like turning around with the arm up in the air and doing the full head turn. Like I think that's deliberate. That's like these are stage actors. I love theater. Let's fucking set our mission statement early. It's going to be jump scary. It's going to be creepy, gross, disgusting, and very theatrical.
Yeah, maybe. I think you can be theatrical and not be awkward, but
Yeah, I don't see it as awkward because in that jump scare moment, you're not looking at her. You're looking at the hands. Like
yeah.
that shit is nightmare fuel. I love
Can I
it.
tell you, like, speaking of like things that you're supposed to hate,
Yeah.
can I tell you how much I fucking hate Miguel?
Yeah. Yeah, you can because that's a guy doing his job perfectly. There's nobody ever watching this movie or listening to this who's like, oh, what a misunderstood character. I love him so much. But
It's so
again,
weird because like
so good.
everyone's so racist to him,
Yeah.
but then like he's also fucking awful, and like I want to sympathize with him because everyone's horrible, but I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? Pretty sure that Rickles is gay, and so I'm with Rickles on this one.
You think Rickles is gay?
I think the joy that Rickles has when he's talking about Miguel's penis and the idea that it's penetrating somebody.
Yeah.
I think that he's like licking his lips.
He does love delivering that line, throwbacks all got big dicks. He does love he loves that line.
Yeah,
I
think
didn't
that's-
read that as gay. I read that as a fellow guy who loves talking about dicks. I saw a
But, like,
joy,
he's like-
a dick joy in that guy.
You steal, you're a throwback, and throwbacks have got big dicks. Now let's go back to my bunk.
You're filling in the blanks here, and it says more about you than it does about Rickles. Let me tell you, bud. I love how much he revels in talking about dicks because stuck in a fucking basement bunker with a bunch of dudes, I would be chomping at the bit to just do every fucking dick joke every second of every day. I'd be chomping at the dick, frankly.
Jumping at the dick. I was waiting for a gap so I could say that.
I'd be going for it. I think Miguel. I mean, holy shit! These guys that can pull off slime, cowardice, you know, avarice, all these kind of characteristics that are so undesirable in any kind of, you know, on-screen character. The guys that do it well have elevated their craft beyond anything we could ever fucking imagine. Do you know what I mean? This is disgusting shit.
Yeah.
And here's my hot take of the movie. I don't want to put the cat amongst the pigeons too much, but I think his suicide is entirely unnecessary. Like his self-sacrificial suicide of unleashing the zombies into the bunker. I don't think he needed to do that.
No, I don't think so either.
But it's portrayed as being this like noble Catholic sacrifice. I think he could have just ran on, set the platform going down, and the zombies would have just he could have baited it. You know, he could have done a million things to avoid laying down and being eaten alive. But it's
Maybe
very
he knew
good
that he
drama.
was. Maybe he knew that he was dying.
Maybe, yeah. Oh, that's another thing. Do you buy it? Like, do you think she caught it in time, or do you think he's fucked?
I think he's fucked.
Yeah, me too.
Because I want him to be fucked. I fucking
Yeah.
hate him. Like he is an absolute horrible character, and it's
Yeah.
like this is a really, I think, a quite a bold, interesting thing, even from Romero, is that like we've got this character that everybody is really horrible and racist towards,
Yeah.
but he's not the hero or even likable. He's just a piece of shit dickhead.
And controversially, romantically involved with our lead. You
Yeah.
know, so we're supposed to dig him. I mean, not in this movie, but like broadly speaking, in movies, we're supposed to like him. I also think he is a very tragic character. Like his sadness is portrayed, his depression is portrayed so well. He's
Yeah.
childlike. He's a baby. He's way past the point of
I
being
wrote
able to summon the
he's a
wherewithal to
baby in
function.
my notes.
Yeah, see, he's a little baby. It's
I,
because
I also wrote that if this movie was set in 2002, he'd have a big fringe and a white studded belt.
all right, project much, Jamie. He
We all did it, Sam.
he's a very vulnerable character, and I appreciate that nuance more, viewing it closer to 40 than I did when I watched it when I was 17. Was like puss or whatever. Like his reaction is the most realistic out of any human in the whole living dead. What the fuck are we calling this?
The
Of the dead?
the Apocalypse trilogy, right?
Is that what it's called? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
His portrayal of this character is the most realistic in any of the Apocalypse trilogy movies because he has completely gone to shit under the pressure. He's
Yeah.
emotional mush. He's going to Jello, as they say. Jello, ha! He's what we would all do. He's where we would all be, and I love his part in this trilogy of movies for that. I think it brings so much humanity to it and so little bullshit.
I think I buy the relationships a bit more in Dawn of the Dead.
Right.
I think those relationships and those breakdowns and the fun and the ups and downs, I think, really sell that a bit more to me. But
I
like,
find it more entertaining. I don't buy it as much. There's too much bravado. It's too much like, let's fucking do this. Yeah. It's not how people would really behave in that situation.
I think they would if you thought you were safe and you were in a mall.
There's no fucking way on earth I'd be dumb enough to think I was safe in that situation. It's my central criticism of that movie. Like, continue to fortify. Go somewhere else. I don't buy it. It's fun. It's immense fun. And it's massively entertaining. There's not a fucking moment of that movie I buy as being even remotely realistic. Whereas this...
What about the bit where the one guy is like, they've got trucks down there, and then Tom Savini's like, yeah, trucks.
Yeah, trucks. My favorite moment by a mile. Yeah, trucks.
You don't believe that?
I love that shit so much it hurts. Oh God, I love Tom Savini. I love him. I can't wait till we get to talk about him in this movie.
The thing that I really find interesting about this movie is that the central thesis, for me at least, my takeaway, and it's one of Frankenstein's lines, where he says, "Civility must be rewarded." That's a sort of a line that's about Bub not eating him, and therefore he gets to eat some dead soldier or whatever. But like, we're in a microcosm of the world where it's like warring factions, and like the world has ended ultimately because we were uncivil. We're being punished for being uncivilized.
I buy that, but I mean, he goes as far as to say, he has this bitter edge to him that we get to see glimpses of. He actually says something along the lines of, we were all told we'd be rewarded for our good behavior. And that to me hints at his insanity. He's like, all right, now fuck good behavior. I'm going to chop up these soldiers and feed them to these zombies and do my work the way I always wanted to. I'm not going to play by the rules anymore. There are no rules. It's game over. We're post game over.
But I think that's the point, though. But I think the wider theme is that, the world is an uncivilized place, and therefore one day we're probably going to pay a price for that.
So it's humanity's duty to self-impose a level of civility that propagates the species or that maintains the balance so that we don't destroy the world.
But and like the people who are telling us that, we need to be civil or that, civility must be rewarded are also not really civil. Anybody in a position of power, be it Dr. Frankenstein or roads. There's no civility there.
There's no humanity there. Like, for me, this is a movie about authority, basically. It's an exploration of the immense failure of a hierarchical system of authority, whether it's quintessentially American, whether it's global, whatever it is. It's people at the top taking advantage of everybody else and ravaging for the spoils, basically, and where that leads us as a civilization. It's a huge commentary on our inability to collaborate and to cooperate in situations of crisis that are ultimately in our own interest, and that how that is our destruction, how that's our total ruination. And that's why, and that ties in with one of the things I love most about these movies, is that and this is so crucial, we don't know how or why this zombie plague occurs. We don't know if it's biological. We don't know if it's spiritual. We don't know if it's random. We don't know if it's fucking, a lab experiment gone wrong and unleashed. We have no idea. So we're constantly speculating, and all our characters are speculating, and they're bringing all their thoughts, feelings, their baggage, their everything to this central, like, what if. And it's the same as the afterlife. It's the same kind of argument. Like, we don't know how this began. We don't know how it ends. We don't know why we're here. We don't know what's happening. So this movie is the sort of semi-nihilistic response to that. It's the realistic human response. And that is fucking top tier shit for a movie where people are just shouting about dicks and fucking blowing each other's brains out. Super clever. So tight to do all that in an hour and 40. Just fucking astonishing, really.
It's also, I think, like a return to form for Romero. Not that Dawn of the Dead was off form, but like Night of the Living Dead is all about how people are the dicks in that situation. And how like fucked people are, and how
people equal shit, if you will.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Corey. But how like in these situations, like people will never get along.
Right.
People are always so self-serving that like that's always what's going to happen.
Almost no matter what the stakes.
Yeah, and like we move away from that because we believe that the trio in Dawn of the Dead, that they're not just out for themselves.
Right.
That they sort of are three disparate people that come together and become like a new family in a shopping mall until other dickheads who aren't interested come and fuck it up.
Right.
But like nobody gets along in Night of the Living Dead and in this movie. Even the scientists are at odds with each other. Like Bowman doesn't really agree with what Frankenstein Logan is doing.
Yeah.
Neither of them, Ted Fisher's just like, he's just kind of there. Obviously, they don't get along with the military people. The military people are at odds with each other because, like, they don't really recognize Rhodes' authority properly. Obviously, they don't really get along with Miguel, and he's presumably been there for a long time.
Yeah.
Everybody's at each other's throats at all times.
That's clever as well. You almost forget Miguel's a soldier.
Yeah.
How poorly they treat him. Even though he's in fatigues the whole time, he's clearly a soldier. Like, you almost associate him with the scientists. Yeah, and I think that the central thing to pull out of that is that what Laurie Cardille does so well as Bowman is, she's the only person saying we all need to work together here. We're not all operating separately. All of our factions here underground are part of one big moving living creature, and if we don't all work together, we die. And if we do all work together, we stand a chance to fucking save humanity. And she's screaming that at people left, right, and center, and nobody gives a fuck. And that's
Absolutely.
That's what makes her character so sick.
It's because, like, even with like, she clearly doesn't agree with what Logan's doing,
right?
But
or if she does, if she agrees with it in principle, she doesn't agree with his science. She doesn't agree with his methodology.
Yeah, but like that's what I mean. She doesn't agree with the fact that he is doing these big experiments to try and socialize the undead, and like feeding people that they used to bunk next to these zombies. Like, she obviously doesn't agree with that, but like she's not going to sell him out because she believes in this, at least the minimum level of collaboration there, which is like we're all working towards the same thing. I think it's really fucking short-sighted to be like, oh, you're feeding my dead men to these zombies. Like, yeah, they're dead.
Yeah, what the fuck else? Bury them? But again, that's Rhodes, right?
Yeah.
He has different principles, and that serves to highlight the fundamental difference in those two characters. You know, Rhodes is absolutely outraged to the point where he starts murdering people and blowing the whole fucking deal to bits. And, you know, Frankenstein at least has the savvy to conceal that from Rhodes because he understands what the reaction's going to be. You know, he does it anyway, but he understands.
Yeah, I think Rhodes is all bravado though, right? Like he acts like he would be the tough guy, but when push comes to shove, he just runs the fucking other way.
Now then, I actually think that's the right thing the only thing to do in that situation. We know they're limited on ammo. We know he doesn't really give a fuck about his men. He doesn't really want to be there. I see that as totally in character to Bale at that moment.
They would have all fit on that little buggy that went just as fast as
Listen,
running.
we gotta discuss this fucking buggy scene. I know I raised one of our little unspoken rules is that we don't talk about the movie while we're watching the movie. But holy fuck, have I always had a massive problem with that scene when he just jumps on that buggy and is like 3 miles an hour up a corridor with a door at the end of it. It's like 30 feet max. And everyone's like, oh, you son of a bitch, running off and leaving us here. Like, fucking power walk and you'll catch up with him. Like, walk to the door. Like, he has to get to that door, put the handbrake on, get out of that little vehicle, open the door and go through it. By the time he's done that, you could fucking be there. It's the only, in my opinion, the only thing that happens in this movie that takes me out of the movie. The one thing.
I don't like Rhodes kicking Bowman and Jalal Conroy's character out.
Right.
I don't understand it. It makes no sense. Even in a hot-headed dickhead sort of way, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like what's the value? They've not done anything wrong to you.
He does hate them.
Like, sure, but like if you don't do it, you can leave them here. And John will fly you away in the helicopter. You can just leave them right here.
It's his sadistic streak.
They'll eventually be killed anyway. Like, sure, but like it doesn't. Like, if John's like, I will not fly the helicopter if you put them out there, and he's like, but I want you to fly the helicopter, and he's like, well, don't put them out there then. And he's like, I'm going to put them out there.
I think that's his pride. He's already put them in there. He's not going to back down. You're fucking flying that helicopter whether I kill your friends or not. Let's fucking go. Like, I think the depths of this guy's fucking deranged pride.
Like, sure, but it's stupid and it doesn't make any sense. I think at some point you've got to, even Rhodes has to swallow his pride and say, okay, they can stay in this little bit here and still be killed by zombies in 20 minutes anyway, because there are zombies fucking everywhere.
Yeah, I get it. But I also think the only thing that undermines any of that for me is like, surely Rhodes could figure out how to fly a fucking helicopter. Like,
I also thought that, yeah, like
helicopters are hard to fly. We're not taking anything away from our helicopter pilot listeners, but the fact that they rely on one, we're big on helicopter radio. One fucking guy to fly the whirly bird. Like, you have to.
Don't do that, Sam.
Well, I'm allowed. Shut the fuck up. You have to learn how to fly the helicopter. Rule 1 in survivalist base camp is everyone learns all the key skills so that nobody is in a position of superiority. Like, everyone needs to learn all of the fucking shit. Like, you need to learn how to operate the radio. You need to learn how to fly the helicopter. You need to learn how to cook. Like, everyone needs to know how to do everything, or we're fucked. So that is slightly unbelievable to me. But, you know, I think it's about time that we did what I know you've been avoiding this entire time, Jamie, and we start
go for a break.
Mad. You avoid a break. I think we need to start giving mad props to your boy Tom Savini for his fucking tour de force masterpiece of a movie. Come on, the effects in this. Come on.
Well, okay, the effects in this are amazing, right? But we're not attributing it all to Tom Savini, right? Like the list of people who are involved in the special effects in this movie.
Yeah.
We've got pre KNB Nicotero, Howard Berger. We've got pre Optic Nerve. What's his name? Ulich and Everett.
Best company name ever for a fucking crazy special effects company, Optic Nerve. So
did we talk about Optic Nerve in a previous episode?
Yeah, briefly. We've touched the optic nerve a few times. But what you're
Yeah.
doing here is dancing around the fact that Tom Savini is the boss on this shit. And
Like,
he's in
sure.
charge of all these effects, dude. He conceptualizes them all, he makes them all happen, he runs the workshop, he sets the vibe, and he even has a hand in an enormous amount of the cinematography that you hate in this movie, which is maybe the
Well,
only thing he does wrong. Like everything else, unfuck withable levels of prestige in the gore in this movie. Come on now.
I think the gore is amazing. I
Yeah.
really do. I think I could take or leave the zombies because like it's not that hard. There are like some effects tricks that I think are amazing. The zombie that sits up and all his guts fall out.
Yeah.
Like Rickles' eyeball when they're like ripping the skin off his face is fucking incredible. The other guy when they're pulling his head off and they're stretching his vocal cords and he's like his screams are getting higher and higher. Like that's great. I mean, that's not just the special effect that's doing that. But big shout out to the sound.
Yeah, it's
But
John. That's John, the character of John Torres, getting his. I mean, he's
yeah,
dismembered and his head's ripped off, and they pull his head off by the eyes, and his mouth's wide open, working the whole time. Savini didn't love that particular effect because he had to put a lot of trust in the zombie pulling the head off to do it right, and he didn't think he did it right. And the vocal thing was obviously like you said, a take by the sound department afterwards, which is incredible.
yeah,
It sets in your mind as something that should physically happen when that happens, which is an incredible feat of gore because it's so dumb that you would ever think that would actually happen.
yeah,
That it's based solely on like stretching tape or whatever. It's such a great fucking effect, and it's so
yeah.
so
It's a
powerfully
kind of a
convincing.
Holocaust thing, right? It's
Yeah.
it's unconvincing in reality, but that
Mm.
makes it convincing in cinema.
Yeah, it makes the physically impossible feel 100% real just by virtue of the grit and the creativity of the effect. And you're right, Rickles' eyeball, holy fucking Jesus. And that's one of the more simple effects in the movie.
Yeah, it's
All the
so
stuff they do with
effective.
guts, oh my God.
Well, I think I've got a big issue with the gut stuff because they use real animal guts, right?
Yeah.
And real animal blood. And I think, like, what? Don't do that.
Oh, get at it. Use human guts. Fucking do it. Like, why aren't people doing this? I hate fake blood looks fucking fake. You have so much real blood at your disposal. Like, use it.
You're a vegetarian. You were mad once when I suggested, like, eating a dolphin or something. I can't remember what it was. You were like, leave the chickens where they live.
Hey,
But like,
friend of the clan. Listen, my view on this is those animals are already dead in a
so you might as well eat
butcher's.
them.
Yeah, you might as well. Absolutely. I choose not to. I'm not so hardline vegetarian that I think nobody else should eat meat. I choose not to. If these animals are dead in a fucking warehouse just sitting there doing nothing and some fat fuck's going to eat them, I say you take them and put them in a zombie movie because that is a
Calling
much
me a
better
fat
use.
fuck.
No, dude. I'm characterizing gluttonous flesh eaters as fat fucks. And in my opinion, there is a better use for this fucking life. Like, if Tom
think
Savini's standing there like, oh, I want to use these guts for a visual effect. And then there's somebody else who's like, I'm hungry. I'd rather they went in the fucking effect.
like I think it's cruel to your actors. I think
Shut the fuck up.
I think like you can make convincing fake blood.
Nobody has.
Yes,
Show
they
me
have.
where. Nah, give me a break. This is the most convincing blood in movie history.
Because it's blood. It's not
Yeah.
convincing blood. It's just blood.
Yeah, so you figured it out, guys. Use real blood. It's not that hard.
I think it's cruel
To who?
to the actors.
They signed up for this shit. It
They-
makes for great stories. How many times have you heard the fucking, oh my God, I was puking in my mouth the whole time? And anyway, that's because they had to
Oh, yeah, it's a gr-
reuse the same
it's a
guts
great
over and over
story.
again. It's a great story. It's a sick story. You know, the problem with the guts wasn't that they were guts. It was that they had to keep storing them and getting them out, and people keep turning the fridges off. That's the problem. Like rotten guts, yeah, absolutely. Rotten anything. Rotten latex smells like fucking petrified feces. Like I don't know. People defend actors a lot for having to do difficult things, and I think that is bullshit. You should have to writhe around in guts for your craft. We're way too soft on actors nowadays.
I
Make them suffer
disagree.
for their art. Like push them to the brink.
All right, so next time we shoot a music video, Sam,
I'll do whatever
you
it takes.
you're getting pelted with raw sheep's livers for 3.5 minutes.
As long as they're fresh. And if they're
Well,
not, it'll make a great story. Listen, if
I just
if
think
it
there's no
wasn't
need.
if it wasn't for the joke, of course there's a need. The need is the art and how convincing it is. The need is the outcome. The ends justify the means here, fucking way more than any other dumb bullshit. Like, you can't tell me you've ever heard that Joe Pilato story where he's laying there with his body in the ground and these like red hot, disgusting, rotten pig guts being pulled out of him and just puking in his mouth over and over again and suffering and struggling for that shot. And you've seen the B-roll footage, you've seen the Savini footage where he's like grimacing as they do it for 4 hours. You can't tell me that's not a sick story, and it totally fucking makes it worth it.
No. Oh, hey, I did that and I was acting and it was cool. That's fine.
It's fine, but it's not rad. You want it to be fucking strawberry laces and, oh no, I got some fucking strawberry laces in my hair. What will I ever do? It's fucking awful. That rips.
No.
Bummer. I'm bummed. I think it's almost an indefensible position to be like, no, it looks incredible and it makes great stories and it's fully fucking rad. But
I
they
don't think.
shouldn't
Oh,
have done it.
I had to sit in a hole in the ground, throwing it in my mouth for 4 hours. Is a good story, Sam. It's
Great story.
it's A, one sentence, and B,
I'm giving you the fucking York notes. Fucking YouTube it. It's a great story. He tells it in the best way. He's so fucking cool about it.
I don't think it's particularly interesting to be like, oh, I suffered for my art.
He's not taking that angle. I'm
Like,
putting
sure.
that into it. I'm saying I think it's rad that people do that. Like when
Like, sure,
people
it's
are like,
rad that
oh,
people suffer for their art, but like, I don't think fucking Joe Pilato is
yeah.
suffering for his art. I think he's suffering at the whims of fucking Sex Machine.
Damn right. And everyone should. Listen, what Tom Savini does in this movie has never, in my opinion, and I honestly fucking challenge anyone to go up against me on this one, it's never been recreated in terms of just how fucking realistic all of this shit looks and how well placed it is and how perfect the execution is. There's not a single gore effect in this movie where you can go, oh, that could be better if they did this, that, or the other. Like, it's such a labor of love. It's such a full-on... It's so planned. He spends months on this shit, rolls it all out, nails it. And I just don't think it's ever been done as well. I think this is a perfect gore movie.
I think there's better gore.
Maybe in isolation, one or two little shots, but as a gore movie, from the opening zombie to the final splatter, you've got, fucking a carousel of incredible gore kills in this fucking flick.
Yeah, I think, like, in terms of the cinematography as well and the way that it's shot in a way that doesn't make the makeup effects look bad. Like, in the book that I have here, my Day of the Dead making of book, which is great. And if you haven't read it, you should, because I'm not going into any of the interesting stuff that's inside it really. But like, there are loads of photos in there of like makeup, and they all looks fucking shit. Like, just of the zombies just sort of hanging out, and it looks fucking awful. So like the good cinematography in this movie is making the zombies look good.
Yeah, which Romero's practiced for two awful looking zombie movies. Just blue face paint.
Yeah, which is why I was so mad when we were watching Night of the Living Dead 90, the Savini remake, when so much of that was fucking ass.
I guess. I still think part of that is in tribute to the original spirit of the zombies being, bang average.
I think there's nothing in spirit about switching out fucking Ted Mosby, what's his name? Bill Moseley, for a shit mannequin as he buffs his head on the step.
Still love that mannequin. So fun. Such good fun. I think you take every human character in this movie, take their death, right?
Yeah.
Maybe go at it, in reverse order, however you want to. Steel shoots himself in the head after having a vicious throat rip. Absolutely superb. Rickles, the eye rip we've talked about, absolutely
Yeah.
flawless. So much incredible blood in that. The bright white eyeball, the screaming, his performance, top
Yeah.
tier.
Insane to me that the Rickles guy barely works.
I know,
Like I
right?
think
He's Bobcat of horror.
yeah, he's just like a I guess he's just like a Pittsburgh guy. I think they just did a bunch
Maybe,
of
yeah.
casting in Pittsburgh. And he
Laughing
was,
to his death, like
yeah,
screaming hysterical laughter. You don't see enough of that, especially not in zombie movies. Absolutely fucking winner.
yeah,
You know, we've already talked about the Torres head rip and the vocal cord thing. So far,
yeah,
all of these have iconic shit happening in them. Rhodes, we know. I know that your favorite on-screen death in a movie lies elsewhere, but this is mine. You know,
yeah,
because I love the character so much as well. I think there's so much lead up to this. We get the most iconic death line ever in horror cinema. We
yeah,
get a fantastic gore effect. We get a guy suffering for his art, which I know you love. We get all of this. You know, Miguel getting torn apart by zombies on the landing, I think is a really emotive death. I think going back a little bit further, Rhodes shoots the doctor in the head. You know, the other lab guy, the other lab coat guy.
yeah.
Just a great squib, just like bang, and you're fucking gone. Absolutely superb.
That's a great death because like you're not expecting
You're
it,
not expecting it at all.
but like we know that he doesn't threaten to shoot someone unless he's willing to shoot them. Like
Yeah. And
we've
then
established that early on. So
he
like
fully fucking executes them. Yeah.
yeah,
And leading up to this, we got some, you know, some relatively okay, you know, deaths. But the gore leading up to this is that opening zombie is, you know, it's next to Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Maniac in my favorite opening scenes, just in terms of just the visceral statement of intent that you get,
Yeah.
and just the coolest fucking puppet. Fuck yeah, get me in there.
Yeah.
I just think this is as a complete movie of gore, the best thing I've ever seen. The most
Yeah.
consistent.
I think it's amazing. I just don't think we needed to use real bits. But like whatever.
Good thing you didn't have to make that decision. Good thing it was Savini, huh? A guy who knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, leave it to Sex Machine.
Leave
He'll-
it to Sex Machine. That's the motto, Jamie. That's what I've been telling you all these years.
I think an interesting thing, not really gore related, but like while we're talking about like some of the iconic stuff that's happening at the end of the movie, I think it's really interesting that I think it's John that has a line early on about the location that they're in is like a big grave,
Yeah, a big tomb.
and the zombies don't rise from the grave; they descend from above into the grave.
Right.
I think that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, it's a good switcheroo.
Yeah,
You definitely don't expect it. Like I first watch, even like fifth watch when I wasn't really paying attention, I still am like, how the fuck are they getting in here? You're in a bunker. You've nailed it. They do such
Yeah.
a good job of making you think they're safe. You know, they're not. The fences are in jeopardy from the very beginning, where she's like, "Don't fuck around anywhere near the fences. They can break the fences." But they make that landing platform look so airtight, and they give
Yeah.
you such a sense of isolation when you're down there that you don't feel there's any jeopardy of zombies getting in. I don't think a fucking flea could get in there. And then what happens? Good old Miguel getting low as the boom.
yeah, fuck it.
Love that shit. Again, the fragility of in the illusion of safety, like the idea that we're safe, we're down here, they're up there. Push one button and the whole dynamic flips. The whole situation is out of control immediately. Again,
Yeah.
like one fucking zombie out of control in their little noose, whatever device they've got, their little divider, and the whole of civilization collapses. You know, one person not doing their job, one person distracted, and the whole fucking house of cards comes down. I love that thematically.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's cool. And it does so much for a short, dumb zombie movie. I think it just deserves all the prizes.
I tell you what though, it does feel longer than like 1 hour
Yeah.
40 or whatever.
It's a painful watch. It's not easy. It's not supposed to be fun. It feels like a 2.5 hour movie easily.
Yeah.
Lurches around all over the place, drags you through the fucking muck. Very,
Yeah.
very painful.
We've not mentioned the synth score, which I love.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Too whimsical at times for me. I love when it hammers home the dread. I love the big real piano hits that go with the action, that are kind of counterbalance the futuristic sounds and the very 80s synth noises. I like the the kind of parallels between them throughout. There's a lot of balance there again, but I don't love the whimsy. I think that can fucking do one for the most part.
Okay, well, why don't we take a break, Sam, and we'll come back and we'll, I guess, sum up, but maybe we'll talk about some other zombie films that we like that we're probably never going to cover or stuff like that. Just do something different.
Let's wrap her up.
Come on, man. Does that thing even work? No. There's nothing out there. It's just dead air.
Okay, Sam. I think there's a million things wrong with this movie.
Okay.
10 out of 10.
You've done a podcast that would indicate 2.5 out of 10, and then you've rated it the highest imaginable. Have you done another perfect score? You must. I think you've done a couple, haven't you?
Yeah,
So
I
far?
think this is 10 mouthfuls of Greek salad out of 10. This is...
I still don't get that line. What does that mean? Greek salad's delicious and substantial. What are you talking about, Rhodes? So good. So good. Anyway, carry on. Like, come on. You just talked about this like you fucking hated it. Tell me why it's a 10. Why is it a 10 spot?
There's a million things wrong with it. There's almost nothing right with it. And yet somehow you come out the other end, you're forced to think about things that are interesting. You're forced to reevaluate why things happened, and it's interesting. Like it's a film that is infinitely better than the sum of its parts. It's my favorite of the Romero zombie films, maybe even better than Monkey Shines. Yeah, it's probably my favorite Romero film front to back. Maybe Creepshow. Maybe that tweaks it for me. I do love Creepshow.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's just great. It's just really, really fucking good, Sam.
Yeah.
Like you say, the stuff that's hard or that it's difficult to watch or that makes you feel like it's shit, like the lighting and stuff, it is there for a reason. And it's not just that, oh, we'll stick some lights here and we'll call it a movie. Like they have thought it through. I don't like it, but I understand it. And like you say, you're not supposed to like it, but I don't think it makes for a very visually interesting movie, but it does make for a very uncomfortable viewing experience.
Yeah. And it's worth noting, this isn't the script that he wrote originally. This isn't the production he had in mind. That was
Land of the Dead,
budget.
basically.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I think it's better for it. You know,
Yeah.
you read a lot about what could have been the budgets that were bandied around, etc. But this is the version that wins for me. Anything else would be bloated, and this is a lean, mean Greek salad machine.
Yeah, so that's my sum up, Sam. 10 Greek salads out of 10.
Well, then it's going to be controversial, I guess, for me to rate this. I'm giving it 9.5 monkey farms out of 10 because I absolutely love this. It's one of my first true horror loves. It just, I mean, I've said it all and you've said it all. I just don't have as much criticism as you, but I rate it slightly lower because I think it's a little rough around the edges where they could have tightened it with a little bit more of a keen eye to casting and performance. But what we get is something so ultimately adorable that I really struggle to fault it in the way that you have. Like I don't see any of the stuff that you've said really as being significant faults. It definitely doesn't dampen or hamper my enjoyment of the movie still all these years later. I just think it's so bold, so brave, and so clever, and I absolutely worship everything that the special effects department touches in this movie. I think it's a blueprint for great visceral physical horror. So yeah, big lover of this film, huge fan to this day. Yeah, just fucking munch this shit down every time.
I feel like it's insane that like all of these people were all doing special effects on this one film. All of the people that would are basically the only interesting special effects people working these days.
Yeah, and so much of it is punk as fuck. People are doing this for no money, just
Yeah.
having a good time, and leading by example, laughing, joking. Like the way they describe the atmosphere on set for this film, it just sounds like the funnest place to be on earth. And a short shot, not all the money in the world, a decent budget, but not what they needed. All this stuff that, bringing zombies to Florida and making it look the way they make it look, it's just so clever and so inventive. There's so much creativity on show here and so much fun for a movie that is so relentlessly bleak and so punishingly dark. It's such a hoot.
Yeah. It is loads of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit now that we've rated and we've summed up about some of the other Romero zombie media and some of the remakes and whatnot of this. Have you seen the 2009 remake or whatever it was?
I've seen about 16 minutes of it and I just couldn't. It's so bad.
So I think it's really interesting that Ving Rhames plays a cop in Dawn of the Dead, the Zack Snyder remake, and then plays Rhodes in Day of the Dead, the shitty remake,
Yeah.
because Joe Pilato plays a cop in Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah. It's a fun twist.
Weird. But yeah, shit. They're all shit. There's a TV show. There's also Day of the Dead Bloodline. I've not seen that.
It's worse than the Day of the Dead remake, in my opinion. It's unwatchable.
And then there's a TV show that I guess was on last year. Did you watch any of that?
Fuck no. I just have no interest. I've seen visually what these movies look like, and I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm not being some sort of the first three are the best, and that's the end of it. But as a general rule, I don't believe in being that narrow-minded. But I really think these are such huge departures stylistically and in spirit from the originals that I just can't fucking put a second of my life into them. I don't have enough time on Earth for that garbage.
I liked Land of the Dead. It sucked.
I enjoyed it at the cinema. Yeah.
Yeah. It sucked, but I liked it.
Yeah, I enjoyed. Yeah, it definitely. Oh, it sure sucked, but I kind of enjoyed a popcorn, fucking cringe fest, eye roll kind of thing.
Diary and Survival.
Oof. Diary's one of the worst films I've ever seen.
Yeah. Do you know they're making, or they were making, a movie called Night of the Living Dead 2?
Okay.
Which was due to star Laurie Cardille, Terry Alexander, and Jarlath Conroy.
Against my better judgment, interested.
It was announced all over the place that this film was in production. And then it just sort of disappeared off the face of the earth. But I know that they've shot stuff because I've seen photos. No, Romero's dead, Sam.
Yeah, but I don't know when this is happening, do I?
Well, okay, so I saw stuff was it last year, maybe the year before?
Right.
But they've definitely shot stuff because I've seen photographs of them all together. I've seen photos of zombies with shark bites taken out of them.
Wow.
But it's gone away. There's no IMDb page anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of thing, I'm not surprised. None of those guys can fucking act. There's no one holding that shit together. Sorry. I mean, now, in their roles in this movie, they're all fucking great. I think Laurie Cardille is fucking amazing. Such a hard role to play. I think she might be one of the first truly strong, iconic female lead roles that's absolutely believable.
Alien was 8 years before this, right?
Yeah, but again, I buy Ripley because Sigourney Weaver's performance is so strong, but the writing I don't really buy. There's some parts of Ripley that I think are superhero standard bravery.
Is Ripley sort of like Ben in the original Night of the Living Dead? In that, the writing isn't super strong lead female character. It's the actor that does that, and
the physical embodiment and the way that it's pushed. Yeah, potentially. That's a pretty strong bit of connective tissue there. I just think she behaves in a way that's so believable in this movie, and that isn't necessarily, a feast for the eyes or something that's massively provocative or going to, push forward anyone's cause, but her portrayal of a really strong intellectual woman at the center of this movie, driving the action, holding everyone together, and screaming sense at the top of her lungs the entire time, feels to me like it should be way more iconic than it is. I think maybe the only reason it suffers is because, again, people are fucking dumb, and they'll look at her and be like, oh, she's not wearing anything exciting. or
Yeah,
like, oh, great, a scientist or whatever. Like, that's how
yeah.
fucking dumb people are.
She's
She's one
not
of the
wearing
most
camo
important.
pants
Yeah,
like
exactly. Yeah,
Barbara in the remake of Night of the Living Dead.
yeah.
So
She's plain like these people. These are the zombies that we should really be talking about. Like, she is such a great fucking actress for what she pulls off in this movie. It's such a dry role, and it's so difficult to get across the
yeah.
emotions that she's getting across in her key scenes. I think she's a hugely underrated genre hero. Big fan.
Do you think it's weird that the three surviving people from this movie,
Mm.
Day of the Dead, would be the leads in Night of the Living Dead 2?
I think it makes sense if it's going to be what I think it's going to be. Them like repopulating the Earth, which is hinted at so much, or not even
Well,
hinted at, discussed openly.
it is discussed openly, but have you read the book The Living Dead by George A. Romero and Daniel Kraus?
No, I haven't.
Well, in that book, spoiler alert, guys,
Mm,
they just turned into zombies. They died and they turned into zombies
great.
on
But
the
that's
island.
the thing. Even again, I'm not going to say the genius of this movie, but what I love about the ending of this movie is that a lot of people will think, "Oh, this is supposed to be a happy ending." She finally figures out that you should just fucking hang out and enjoy the remainder of your time, and that you should be allowed to do that on a beach. But the real subtext of the movie is these people fucking die. And they die a miserable, horrible death. If they're lucky, they die. If they're unlucky, they get bitten and become zombies. It's
Well, they become zombies.
They're going to
anyway.
become zombies anyway, but being devoured by zombies before you become one is the worst, right? You're just
Yeah.
a fucking crawling sack of gnawed flesh. Even when you see them on that beach and the tropical music plays, they're fucked. That's how hard the movie has done a number on you. And that's fucking some fatalistic filmmaking right there.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, if I came back from the dead, Sam, the first thing that I would do is go to whatever I was listening to this podcast on and rate it 5 stars.
Yep, I'd take my green finger and I'd slowly move it downwards and learn to press the 5-star button all by myself, maybe with some help from a mad doctor.
Yeah, I think in life, I spent a lot of time following people on Instagram, so I would have the memory of what I need to do when I go
Yep.
to at FT Horror Show on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter, and I'd go to those places and I'd press follow.
I would do the same. I would have the cellular memory to call my Aunt Alicia and tell her all about the Final Transmission podcast and tell her to tell all her friends.
Yeah, and I would also probably film a little selfie of myself, giving my opinion of the movie.
The true heroes do that. I mean, that's seriously next level. The people who do that, we worship the ground they walk on. Let's be
Absolutely.
frank here. Let's not be around the bush. They're the real horror genre masters. The true legends of our time.
I think that's it, Sam. I think we can say goodbye now.
I think we can probably reluctantly let this one go. I'll probably watch it tomorrow.
Can I ask you a question?
Go on.
Is a skeleton a zombie?
It's a great question. Fuck, we didn't talk about my favorite effect ever in this movie. Greg Nicotero's severed head sideways on the table with all the little electrodes in his brain. Absolutely top tier. And the excavated brain attached to the body laying on the table. Some of the best autopsy, lab, gore, whatever you want to call it. It's just top tier. You might have to splice that in earlier, sorry.
I might just put that in before the jump,
Yeah.
like
good
before
shout.
the credits at the beginning.
Yeah. A skeleton is a zombie if it has enough of its brain intact to remain animated, according to Day of the Dead.
Yeah,
Which is
having an
unlikely
argument-
because you would have to mechanically blast all the flesh off. You wouldn't be able to let it decay because the brain would obviously decay. So you'd need a zombie that either got its from the neck down was like flesh blasted like a battery farm chicken.
So when a skeleton is reanimated in, I don't know, fucking Ray Harryhausen films or whatever,
Oh no, that's a skeleton.
but it's a reanimated corpse of a person.
It doesn't have a brain.
So how can it sword fight?
Magic. It's always magic.
Wizard did it.
Yeah.
I remember having quite a heated argument about this. I think that it is a zombie.
It can't be a
Some-
zombie.
Well, someone was like, someone didn't bring up the brain thing. Whoever I was
Right.
arguing with didn't bring up the brain thing. They were just like, no, they're different. And I was like, okay, so what if a zombie is a zombie for so long that all their flesh rots off? They're a
The brain.
skeleton.
Yeah, you got to think about the brain, bud. It's not magic that makes zombies in our, in the world that we're talking about. It's magic that makes a dancing sword or a skeleton, but it's not. It's not the same for a zombie. It's normally something biological, something parasitic, a scientific phenomenon of some kind.
So in Army of Darkness,
Hmm.
is Evil Ash a zombie?
No, he's a deadite.
But he's not a deadite. He's just a bit of ash.
But imbued with the deadite spirit, surely.
But if I'm drunk on whiskey, that doesn't make me whiskey.
Yeah, it does. You are the liquor. I knew we'd get a Trailer Park Boys quote in here eventually. You're no longer Jamie. Look at it that way. Holy shit! I've been around you drunk on whiskey.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
You do know that zombies are zombies and skeletons are magic.
but I don't think they're magic. I think
You're in a contrarian little mood, Jamie. You know that they're magic. They don't have brains. They're
There's
reanimated skeletons.
Hang on.
Are you looking at your
Skeleton.
dissertation?
Return of the Living Dead.
What are you Googling?
I literally said it out loud as I was Googling it.
Yeah, but why are you Googling that?
I'm gonna
You're going into a different zombie universe.
I'm going into it's in fact they were both written by John Russo, so
I know, he's my uncle.
can you click that?
Give me 1 sec.
Does that go anywhere?
My one criticism of this link, too short. Let's have a look. Right, yeah, okay, this guy. We know this guy.
Yeah. Is he a zombie?
I thought he was melted. Wait, which one are you talking about? This is just your Google search and all the results. It's not one result. The It's Party Time guy, you mean?
Yeah, not Tarman.
Right. So can't remember. So he rises from the grave because I can't remember why. What happens? They leak that shit on the grave or whatever it is.
Yeah, well, it's a zombie film, right?
Yeah, but there's a reason, isn't there? There's they have a toxic waste thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, the toxic waste is reanimating any dead organic tissue it hits, right? Regardless of brain or not. That's not the same.
So Return of the Living Dead, is it a zombie film?
It's in the zombie genre. Yeah, but it's like all zombie films have different,
Yeah. I'm not saying is a skeleton a Romero zombie. I'm saying is a skeleton a zombie?
No, because the vast majority of times it's magic. And in that one time, you can trace the reanimating force to being an external factor, like liquid, whatever it is, goo.
There's an external factor in Night of the Living Dead. We just don't know what it is.
Yeah, but there might not be.
But
to drive us all insane, it could be magic. It could be religious. It could be the
if it's
devil.
magic, then that means that skeletons are zombies.
Exactly. That's why we need to find out. This is why it's your dissertation. No, dude, there's a hard line here. Skeletons are skeletons animated by magic. Zombies are the dead, the recently dead, returned to life by some kind of biological factor, usually.
But the skeleton in
Or
Return of the Living
voodoo,
Dead,
which is magic.
the skeleton that is reanimated in Return of the Living Dead by an external factor is therefore a zombie.
It's a pretty loosey-goosey
So
logic jump definition.
a skeleton can be a zombie.
Yeah, a skeleton can be a zombie, but skeletons aren't zombies. It's like how cops can be good people, but cops aren't good people.
Yeah, I don't think a cop can be a good person.
I knew that example wouldn't fly. It's like how there's such a thing as bad cake, but all cake is good cake. There might be one bad cake, but cake is good.
Yeah.
So there can be a skeleton that's a zombie, but skeletons are not zombies.
I think skeletons are zombies.
No, you don't. You fucking contrary little bastard. You don't.
I do.
You don't think that. Sinbad. They're not fucking zombies. They're magic. It's like necromancy on a skeleton.
Zombies.
I think it's time to say goodnight to the people, Jamie.
I want to know what you think. If you think that skeletons are zombies, I want to hear from you. If you think the opposite of that, keep your mouth shut.
All right, now let me say my piece. If you think skeletons are magic and zombies are zombies, then fucking tell me. I want to hear about it. I want to hear the opposing argument too, because I am open to being wrong. I haven't seen all the skeleton movies ever, and I haven't seen all the. I've barely seen any zombie movies really, because they're all terrible. So, hit me with your deep cuts and your hot takes vis-a-vis Skeletons versus Zombies, a movie coming to you soon from Paramount Pictures, written by Jamie Carruthers.
Skeletons wouldn't be versus zombies because they're the same thing. They'd be on the same side.
Humans are against humans all the time. Why have you got this rigid idea in your head that there's some kind of conspiracy here?